Hi, I'm Miriam Cates. This is GBN Originals. Now, today we've got an exclusive interview with Katie Amess, who's the daughter of the murdered MP, Sir David Amess. Now, Katie's been expressing serious concerns about the Prevent scheme, which didn't stop the Southport murders and also sadly didn't stop the murder of her own father. This is what Katie had to say. Welcome, Katie Amess. Thank you so much for joining me today. We spoke to you last week when the Prime Minister announced that there was going to be this inquiry into those dreadful Stockport murders and the failures of Prevent and the police and other agencies that had led up to it. Now, as our viewers will know, very sadly, in October 2021, your own father, Sir David Amess, who was an MP, was also fatally stabbed by a man called Ali Harbour Ali, who did also turn out to have Islamist tendencies. Katie, how did you feel when you first heard the news back in July last year about those awful murders in Southport?
Well, as I continue to say, my heartfelt condolences to the family and all of the victims, the little girls that did survive. You know, some of their injuries will possibly be life-changing, and obviously the 3 little girls that passed away. So my thoughts and prayers are with them every single day. It just is so shocking that we are in the same place again. And it's just utter disbelief and despair that 3.5 years later, nothing has been learned, nothing has changed, and the same profile of person is still walking the streets, having been identified as a threat and then being released back into the system. It's a lot of anger as well that nobody has listened to what I've said, and it's all now retrospective and trying to catch up. We should be doing a full open inquiry for all of the failings of Prevent. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be in this same situation time and time again.
Yes, because just like your father's killer, Axel Rudikapana, the Southport killer, was, as you say, referred to Prevent several years ago on a number of occasions and other agencies, and yet he was still free to commit those crimes. Had your father's killer been treated similarly? Absolutely.
The public is doing their job. They are recognising threats, people that are potentially going to go on and commit these awful, awful atrocities. They're reporting them to Prevent, and then Prevent is taking these people out for a coffee. In my father's case, that is exactly what happened. He was taken for a coffee. They said, you know, are you a terrorist? He obviously said no. And then he was let back into the system. And he even mocked the system during the trial. He's like, it's not hard to get away from these people. You say what they want you to hear, what they want to hear, and then you just go back into the system. And he was given, 6 or 7 years to go on and plan the attack. And the same in the Southport case, the public are doing their job. They're reporting him. They're saying, please help us. This could be a potential threat. And the people who are in charge are just completely dropping the ball and putting them back into society to go on and kill innocent people. And it's just not right. And I've said time and time again, we need a full inquiry. We can't just say lessons have been learned. Nothing has been learned, clearly, because if it was, we wouldn't be sitting here today. These aren't isolated incidents. It's not just the Southport case and what happened to my dad. We've got the London Bridge attack, the Streatham attack, the friends that were attacked in a park, the device that was detonated on the tube. These are all instances of huge, huge failings. And those are just the ones that we know about that have been made public. I'm sure there are tons of other failings where perhaps the person didn't pass away, where the same failings have been made and nobody wants to be held accountable.
What seems to be the problem, and perhaps this will come out in the inquiry, is that, as you say, the general public and teachers and the police and other agencies are good at recognising people who are clearly have the potential to be very violent. But then when they get in contact with Prevent, they seem to not be interested in them if they don't have a particular ideology that they're looking for. But that doesn't make them any less dangerous, does it?
No, I mean, it's just beyond stupidity. Obviously, they're going to say, I'm not a terrorist. Like, obviously, they're going to say that. There has to be a more robust system to then figure out if they're telling the truth or not. And Prevent is failing. We know that Prevent is failing. I am so happy, if that's the right word to use, grateful that the families of the victims in Southport are getting an inquiry. I was told point blank, you're not having an inquest because the government wrote like a 6 or 7 page document to the coroner to say that it would release top secrets of the government. It wasn't in the public interest for this information to be released. What changed between my case and Southport? Why is there something in my case that would give away top secrets that isn't in the Southport case? And they're picking and choosing who they're helping because of how bad it will look on them. And I'm not going to put up with it. And neither is the public, because I think the anger after the Southport atrocity was because the public were hurting and nobody is listening to us. How are we meant to get answers? It's through a full, open public inquiry. And that is what I am demanding.
And it wasn't that you hadn't tried. You asked repeatedly, you and your family, for an inquiry. And I think what's particularly shocking and saddening is that until July, the people in power, the Conservative government, were actually friends of your late father.
They all claim to be friends. I tried to do things the right way. I didn't want to take my campaign public. I wanted to go through the court system. So I spent tens of thousands of pounds trying to get the coroner to resume the inquest. Behind my back, the government wrote letters to the coroner to tell him why it shouldn't be resumed. And so I petitioned the government and they completely ignored me. Then I went to the Labour government. Yvette Cooper took a meeting with my mum and I in about October. She did say that she would try to release more details to the public about how they dealt with the man that did this. But I haven't seen those details being published, and I've been chasing up constantly. When we saw that the Southport case was having an inquiry, we were just gobsmacked. We're like, why can't we? Rightfully so, they should have one. Everybody should have one. So then we contacted Yvette Cooper again, and she has agreed to have another meeting with us on Thursday. So I just pray that in that meeting, she does say, you will also be given an inquiry, because they cannot just choose who they're going to help and who they're not going to help. Keir Starmer said to the public, I am not going to allow institutions to deflect the blame. So I intend to hold them accountable to those words, because my father worked for this country for 40 years. He is owed the decency and the respect to find out who failed him and why. We don't want lessons learned. We want action. We want accountability. And we want to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
And we have a new government now, as you said. If this government was to commission an inquiry and severe failings were found to have taken place in your father's case, this government isn't responsible for that. So I'm not sure why they would seek to hide any information now.